and welcome to Cider and Ale.
I'm Cider.
I'm Ale. Now, in the last episode, we mentioned that we seem to have a problem trying to find a variety of different ciders because there weren't that many labels. This time, when we went out, we even tried a different place to find different labels, and we did to a point, but we still ran into the same problem. So, what we decided is we're not just going to focus on ciders, but we're going to focus on other alcoholic drinks that aren't necessarily beer related. Not to say we're going to be drinking Zimas and wine coolers, but you get the gist. It's not just going to be beer. It's not just going to be ciders. We found a few ciders. We found a few of these other unique style drinks. So we're going to share them with you today. So let's get started.
Alrighty, first we have Diskin Cider BTC, Bourbon Tart Cherry Cider.
Bourbon.
I don't like bourbon. Fresh pressed, no added sugar, nothing artificial, locally crafted. You're welcome.
Local to Tennessee, by the way.
We've made one of the world's greatest pairings better by adding crisp cider to bourbon and cherry. Originally created for our initial launch, the tears shed over the last pint were too much to bear. So, you are now fortunate to enjoy the smooth, slightly tart flavors of fresh pressed cherry juice, bourbon, and barrel aged cider. The true definition of dangerously good. Enjoy responsibly.
Now, we've had Diskin before. I think we had them on our first show. We may have had them on the last one. I can't remember. I need to go back and research before we do these. But a bourbon cider kind of piques my interest. I'm kind of a fan of bourbon beers. So a bourbon laced cider, I'm intrigued. Now, if you look at it, immediately it does represent a cider. But you can smell that bourbon.
The cherry smells like cough syrup.
I mean, I really can't smell a lot of the cherry. The bourbon's really what's kind of coming out for me.
Smell the cherry.
But it might just be our smells, our olfactory senses. I may be picking up just the bourbon, and she's picking up the cherry. I smell bourbon. She smells cherry. So, cheers. Immediately, I tasted cherry, and it kind of washed out to a very tart flavor. I don't really get a sense of the bourbon outside of the smell.
Hurts the jaw.
I mean, I guess I can see where the bourbon's kind of coming in. Kind of more of an aftertaste if you kind of let it sit for a minute. But it's very cherry forward, very tart.
It's definitely better than a lot that we've had that were upfront about being tart.
Mm-hmm. It's something, if you like ciders, but you don't like it being sugary like soda, this would probably do you just fine, especially if you like cherry. If you're worried about bourbon, I don't think it's a concern. Next up, we have Wild Citrus. See, it's a dog and he's biting on a lime, so it's Wild Citrus. Sit! This is brewed from the Wild Ginger Brewing Company in Memphis, Tennessee, and this is an alcoholic Sprite or Mellow Yellow. And in this state, it's Mellow Yellow or Mountain Dew. That's the one everybody likes. Oh yeah, that's Mountain Dew. But as you can see, it's very clear.
It looks like pee.
Yeah, this is Mountain Dew. This is a spiked Mountain Dew.
Oh my God, it smells like Mountain Dew.
I really feel like that's what we got here. We got a spiked Mountain Dew. That's about as clear as it's going to get, and I don't think the taste is going to convince us differently.
It's like off-brand Mountain Dew.
Yeah. You can't taste any alcohol. It's like drinking a soda.
Yep.
This is not for me. I don't like Mountain Dew. You know, I can chug this down, but I'm not a fan.
If you want something that you don't like the taste of alcohol, this is for you. Next, we have Snake Bite. Apple Cider Shandy. Splash of cranberry.
And let me just say,
he doesn't like snakes.
I do not.
It is made by TW Pitchers Brewing. Crisp apple up front, a splash of tart cranberry, and a subtle malt backbone. Snake Bite is refreshing, balanced, and not too sweet. Cheers.
Now, if you've watched Porter and Ale, you may already know this, but if you're just new to the cider and ale aspect of things, you might not know what a shandy is. And shandies are typically beers mixed with something like lemonade, typically lemonade. So it's like half beer, half lemonade. This says it's an apple cider, so I'm curious if it's a cider mixed with maybe like cranberry juice, like halved, and then it's a shandy in that way, or is it beer mixed with apple cider and split that way?
I feel like it's definitely a beer mixed with apple cider, just because if you notice with a lot of our ciders, you don't get a head on it.
So upon inspection, it's a hazy type beer, which we're going to assume it's a beer. Mm-hmm. It smells like a cider, though. It really comes off more like a cider because there's really no beer smell that I get.
Yes, I do not smell beer.
Okay.
And as he knows, I don't like beer. And on that note, I will say we got to go to the Nashville Brewing Company / Blackstone.
It was a Blackstone Brewing Company.
And they have one called the Ex-Girlfriend, and it is a sour. And I tried it because I told them I did not like beer. I cannot stand the yeasty taste. I love the smell of it. Every time he pours a beer, I will smell it. I love the smell of beer, but I cannot drink it. It makes me just bleh. But their sour ale that they have, Ex-Girlfriend, was freaking amazing. It cuts out all that yeasty flavor. So I actually want to do an episode where it's just sour beers because I want to see if I have found my holy grail of beer.
I mean, it could be. I mean, it was actually pretty good. I got to sample it. Granted, you didn't get to see it on camera because it was before we started filming and whatnot. We got to do a little bit of sampling beforehand, but so in the future maybe porter and ale and cider, and then we'll have a sour episode and see what happens.
And cider and porter will thrive, and ale will just be in the corner in the fetal position.
Yep. That's what happens. All right, I think it'll be good. We'll see.
See there, I get the beer flavor.
Yeah, I think this is a beer cut with a cider.
Beer with apple cider. If I'd have read the rest of the can, we would have known that.
See? So, beer apple cider. That's an interesting shandy I've never considered.
That is.
But there you go. The beer, for me, is really on the back end. The cider is really what stands out, but there is that beer quality to it, as we saw just from appearance, but it's subtle in the background.
The cranberry definitely does a lot to cover up that yeasty type flavor, because it's like you might get just that little hint of, I'm drinking something with beer in it, and then the cranberry just comes in and like punches it into another freaking universe.
If you want something different with your beer, it's pretty good. All right, next up we have Al's Brew Radler. That's my jam. An amber ale blended with brewed Darjeeling tea, hibiscus flower, lemon peel, fruit juices, and agave nectar. It's a beer and tea blend. A Radler is much like a Shandy. They're just kind of, I really don't know what the difference is. It's two sides of the same coin, you know what I mean? They have a lot printed on here, so let me get started. How did we name our Radler? Well, strawberries for one. I don't really know. Strawberry jam. That's my jam. Gotcha. But for reals, that's what it says. For reals with a Z. I already dislike this company for that. We love our rad brews.
Oh my
I'm
god.
really starting to dislike them.
So it's a hipster company.
Yeah. And what the hoot is a Radler? Because it's Al's Radler, and what the hoot is a what? Okay. A beer style invented in 1922 for cyclists. A bold flavor, but easy enough that following a tipple, the bikers didn't topple. A tot of tea, a ration of beer, and a dash of history. Keep on riding. So this is for cyclist hipsters. I don't like this brand just because I hate everything they printed on this can. Look at that. That looks like tea, but then there's the beer aspect of it with the head. You can't see through this at all. It's completely...
You can barely see the frickin' air bubbles coming up.
hazy. You can't see my fingers, can you? Nope.
Oh, it smells like tea.
I think where it has it said that it had that agave nectar that kind of has that honey that adds that honey smell to it, because that's really what I'm getting is a very honey.
It smells like it should be a hot tea.
So we'll actually have to taste it and kind of get an idea of whether or not good, hot, good, cold, whatever it may be. But
can you drink it hot?
I mean, you talk to Porter and he'll tell you he prefers his beer room temperature.
No, I'm talking about hot.
I mean, I don't know if you could have it hot without it really disturbing the chemical makeup. I don't know. Room temperature, maybe. So we'll have to wait and see.
We need to ask our guys at the Blackstone Brewing Company.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
The tea really does stand out.
The nectar.
The agave nectar.
Yeah. That stands out. It is like, it's not a bad flavor, but it hit the back of my throat and I wanted to gag. It tastes like you're drinking straight up honey.
I mean, I'm going to go on record and say I don't dislike it. I don't like the hipster people and their can and their stupid jokes, but I kind of like it.
It's just too sweet. And I love sweet things like wine. Oh my God, I have to have sweet wine, but this is just too sweet.
And fair enough. If I just needed something to curb my sweet tooth, this would kind of do it.
All right, next up we have Roots Cider Company, traditional hard cider, naturally gluten-free. Roots Cider Company has partnered with one of America's premier orchard. I cannot read.
Would you like me to read?
Yes.
Okay.
Let him read it.
I'm sorry. See, I don't have a good reading partner. Her and Porter both.
We just.
Root Cider Company has partnered with one of America's premier orchards to create a cider that embodies the spirit of Nashville. Our traditional hard cider combines the sweet cider of 3 apple varietals, that's a new word, that are grown, pressed, and fermented at one location to produce the freshest product possible. Experience our small batch, big apple taste. You'd think this is out of New York, if they were going to boast that. Root's traditional hard cider is never back sweetened, allowing the character of the yeast to shine. Our crisp finish is achieved through balance of tartness, sweetness, and stable carbonation. So, Nashville brewed cider, as we tend to have around here. I would like to find some outsiders. We did find that the hipster one was from Wisconsin.
I don't want to drink this now.
Why?
It smells like a fart.
Oh. Well, let's put it in a glass and smell it. Don't smell it out of the bottle.
You think it should smell good out of a bottle? It does not. It smells like a whole fart.
Now, this is very clean. Very, very clean. You can see my fingers.
It still smells like a fart.
It does. This is not a cider I've ever smelt before. I smell no apple.
It's not out of date, is it?
It's traditionally made and all these fancy gluten-free things, so maybe that's why. I mean, the more I smell it, I just took another whiff. I'm starting to get the apple.
Yeah, it doesn't smell as bad as it did right when you open.
So maybe it needed to aerate just a little bit to allow the apples to breathe. Who knows? So let's get to it. Outside of the initial smell, it actually doesn't taste bad. It's definitely on the dry side. I'd say semi-sweet. If you like your ciders not too sweet, not too bitter, I'd probably go with this. And lastly, we have Scandinavian cider. It comes in a nice little wine bottle, so to speak. It says the apple cider is made from the late harvest apples, which makes it taste unique and balanced. It's always satisfying. This does not smell like a fart.
Thank God.
Bubbly. Clean.
Very bubbly.
There wasn't really anything about it that gave us it's an apple cider. That's all it said. So I don't really feel like there's a whole lot to go over.
Oh wow, that's crisp.
It's pretty good.
Definitely very carbonated.
It's really good, you know. I mean, for a cider, if you're looking for a solid cider that's just simple, this is it. I mean, it's crisp, clean, tasty. I think this is probably the best one we've had all night. Okay, let's recap. We have bourbon cherry cider, Mountain Dew soda, a apple cider shandy, a tea Radler, then a fart, and some pretty good apple cider. And you know, in all honesty, all these were actually pretty good.
I liked all of them except for, I didn't really care for the Roots or the Radler. And the sodas come.
All right, it's time for the Rochambeau.
Oh no. Okay.
Why can't I win at this game? Why can't I win? We need to come up with a new game.
No.
One that I can win, at least fairly at some point. I feel like this is going to be a mess of just blah. I'm going to have this big foamy mustache. All right, here we go. Oh my God! It's the carbonation. You may have seen me kind of pause for a moment. It's because my throat was stinging so bad. And I just had to, I was hoping I could just power through it, and then it came back after I started again. And the flavors, Jesus.
You want to Rochambeau again to see who gets to go next?
No, you're going next. I did my best to get as much of that down as I possibly could.
See if I can do this. I don't think I
You can do it. You can do
I
it.
can't do it.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
I'd rather not have to take it anymore. So please.
Rather you take it all.
No, please.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. She didn't do anything. She left me an ankle and a foot.
Oh my God. I don't know if you could see it, but that nasty looking head, it went straight down his throat.
So what I got there at the end was a perfect blend of the Radler and the Mountain Dew. Oh. No good. No good. But there you go. You got 6 new drinks. We won't say beers or ciders. 6 new drinks. Ciders and Radlers and Shandies and sodas. All for you to go out and try if it sounds appealing to you. Don't forget, if you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Pencil and Paper Productions and help us out. You can see shows like this on a regular basis. Don't forget to follow Porter and Ale on Untapped. You can follow us on Twitter. And then there are the things here, you know, the video here and the video there, old and new, and all these things in between. But anyway, guys, thank you for joining us.
I'm Cider.
I'm Ale.
Drink responsibly.
And we'll see you next time.